everyone, I'm Darcy Bono, and in this video we're going to do things a little bit differently than I usually do. I usually don't do the talking head videos because I don't have anything to discuss, but in this case I had several interesting interactions at Adepticon that got me thinking about how we present Warhammer, or wargaming in general. I'll just be saying Warhammer because that's the one I've been doing for the past 20 years. How we present this to people who have no idea what it is. How we convey what we love about the hobby to outsiders, essentially, in a way that is desirable and intriguing to people that aren't familiar with it. And let me just say, I'm not a psych major, I'm not a sociologist. I am a marketing major though, but that's important because the whole concept of marketing is expressing an idea or a product or a service in a way that makes it desirable. So I'm hoping that comes in handy here. But the reason I wanted to make this video is one, 10th edition 40K is coming out. It's supposed to be way more user-friendly, way more streamlined. Great. That's fantastic for new players. And two, I've met people who are struggling with trying to get someone they care about interested in Warhammer, essentially. So obviously this isn't a tried and true method, but I think at the end of this video you will have a good grasp on how to present this in a way that your average person might actually find intriguing. So what got me thinking about this was interactions that happened in my Uber rides, of all places, at Adepticon, going from the convention to my hotel. They were like 5-minute rides, basic small talk, but invariably what would happen is that the driver 90% of the time would say, hey, what is this convention? What is it for? Why are you here? And I got two very distinct responses based on my two different answers that I picked up a pretty blatant pattern. If I said, it's a wargaming convention, it's basically toy soldiers. Instant record scratch moment. Instant termination of conversation. And I think, like politely so, they basically go, okay. But I think the problem is that when your average adult hears toy soldiers, they think, and for some reason, that's totally unacceptable. I don't understand why. We live in an unjust world. Apparently, we live in a world where an adult can have an emotional outburst, in public, mind you, to a sports team that doesn't even know they exist. And that's okay. But apparently, playing with these things is lame. I don't understand. So that was the response to their toy soldiers. Now, if I said the second option, which was, it's a wargaming convention. It's a tabletop game that is strategy-based, but also uses dice, and you actually get to use models that you assemble and customize and paint yourself. That generated a lot more questions. Obviously, it's a longer answer. However, it has multiple conventional values that your average adult finds intriguing. For example, strategy. We apparently, as adults, can't just use our imaginations anymore. There's actual like thinking and cleverness involved in this. For some reason, dice as well. When I mentioned dice being involved, there was this like, ooh, gambling, Vegas kind of shtick to it. I don't know. I don't get out. But yeah, that combined with the strategy was a talking point. And then the, hey, I physically made these things that I'm using to play this game. That generated a lot more interest. So as far as how you present wargaming to someone, go that route. It got just hands down way more discussion. So that's my shtick as far as like how to give an elevator pitch on what wargaming and Warhammer is. If someone's actually ready to get a little more interested in Warhammer, present them with the visuals first. Don't throw them into the entire lore of the entire universe of 40K or Age of Sigmar. Show them the visuals of the factions. Don't go into the lore unless they ask about a specific faction. It is so overwhelming to be told this massive overarching story of this whole world. It's a lot to take in, but give them a selection essentially of what they can choose from on a visual basis. I get we're not all visual learners, but as far as what draws people to things, seeing it goes a long way. For example, I have no interest in cars or any kind of automotive stuff. If you start talking to me about automotive stuff, I really struggle to stay interested. However, when a Lamborghini goes down the road, then I notice and go, dang, look at that thing. So start with the visuals, let them pick out things that they think look cool first, and then you can go further with the play style and lore from there. And as far as the actual gameplay goes, that's where I find the biggest roadblocks. And that's because it takes a large amount of time, money, and space. 3 things that adults, specifically parents, don't have a lot of. Thankfully, we live in an age where there are multiple skirmish games. In fact, those 3 factors are probably what causes people to go to other war games besides Warhammer. Again, I can't talk to those, I can't speak to those because I don't play them, but they have much smaller footprints. But if you are trying to get people involved with Warhammer specifically, start with the skirmish games. We have Warcry and Underworlds for the Age of Sigmar crowd. I can personally attest that those are actually what got me involved in Warhammer after Warhammer Fantasy Battles. I mainly just painted after that and didn't actually game until those came out, because the whole scale game does take quite a commitment. So if people are unsure and just want to test the waters, introduce them to a skirmish game. Kill Team obviously has a little bit more complexity to it, but as far as, again, having a small model count, small entry fee essentially, that is the way to go for 40K. And even if you're a full scale, gamer, downgrade to the skirmish games if you want to actually get this other person involved. Unless they're really gung-ho about the full-scale games, that's great, fantastic. But if you're trying to get someone who is uncertain and just wants to test things out, go with a skirmish game, or even a really low-point game, like a 500-point game. So that's my recommendation as far as actual gameplay goes. Don't overwhelm your audience, essentially. So that's it. That's my shtick. I don't know if that was actually helpful. I hope it was. It's just something that people seem to actually struggle conveying and then following through as far as getting new converts, essentially, to wargaming. So let me know what you think in the comments. If you've had any success stories, any roadblocks that you've run into, I'd like to discuss them. And yeah, let me know what you think. And until we meet again, happy hobbying.